Okay, cool. So yeah, so I was chatting with Starsky last night over a couple of beers, and I was just saying how much I've fallen in love with this thing, the Prophet X. In fact, this has been my last purchase for my room, and I honestly think that this is just one of those little unsung heroes that people don't generally know too much about, but it just does some really fascinating things. So yeah, the Prophet X is essentially it's an 8-voice stereo synthesizer. And each of those voices has 2 samples and 2 oscillators. So I kind of think of these samples a little bit like oscillators in their own right. And it's just a combination of kind of having samples, but also a really deep synth engine as well. As I say, it's purely it's purely stereo as well. So the filter is 8 stereo filters for each voice. But then it's got really clever stuff in there as well. So I'm on this patch here, PX Grand Piano 32, and so I've got a really lovely grand piano sample in there. There's loads of samples from the company 8DO, and they're really, really lovely multi-sample kind of sample sets. And then this particular one, you can see we've got this 16 voice switch. So it's normally 8 stereo voices, or you can switch it into being 16 mono sort of voices. But if you press and hold this button, you get 32 voices going in a kind of a paraphonic way through the filter. So just going through the single filter. So, it goes from being an 8 voice to being a 32 voice synth. It's just really, really lovely. So that's one of the things. I'm just gonna go to a basic patch here and just show you something really crazy. So I'm gonna bring up oscillator 1 and bring all the other sounds down, and I'm just gonna choose a sine wave. Okay, so we've just got a basic, I'll just have a listen. That's a nice basic sine wave there. What I'm going to do now is get a sample. So let's move to the category of choir. There we go. And we'll go for some sort of children's choirs. Here's epic, symphonic, long. That'll do. Okay, so now I've got a sample loaded in. And actually, if I just bring up the instrument, we'll just hear. So we've got we've got this really lovely multi-sampled choir going on there. But the interesting thing is, if I take that instrument down now and bring up that sine wave again, what I can do here is I can say, okay, assign that choir sample to modulate the pitch of oscillator 1. Okay? And the mod matrix opens, and you've just instantly assigned it by just doing that little button combination there. You can use the amount now, and if we listen, this is that sine wave. Just in the background there, you can kind of hear this lovely kind of sample of a choir appearing in the sine wave. So it's quite interesting. It's just really fascinating to be able to kind of take a sine wave and then just bring in a choir into that. And I can change that sample at any point as well. They load really quickly. Go for a trombone, why not? And now, that's a little bit more pronounced, I'd say, on that sine. That's just giving this sine a really kooky sort of sound. But let's just, I just take that off here. There we go, back to straight. So that's the sort of thing that you can do. It's really nice and experimental. I'm just going to get another sound up. So I've got polysoup here. And that, I think, is, basically just kind of using the 2 oscillators here. Now, if I go to the cut-off, obviously you've got the filter there. So we've got the filter, and if I go to miscellaneous here, I can go, okay, let's split that filter, the left and right side, into 2 kind of different cut-off positions. And again, it's just lovely to be able to split those filters out and just do all that sort of stuff. It's just so powerful. I mean, loads of other stuff. So if I go into panning here, you can pan your oscillators individually, and they're both hard panned at the minute. Put all of this stuff, and if I want to bring in, this is synth. again, if I want to maybe put that to the LFO, so I'll get LFO1, and I'll assign that to the cutoff there, and put an amount in. I might have been a bit extreme there with the LFO, but you get the idea. So yeah, it was a really, really nice instrument. And, another thing I should mention is this bitonal as well. So you've got your 8 voices in a kind of a normal mode, but you can use splits, you can use stacks, or you can even just fire in MIDI and treat it as 2 separate 4-voice instruments, or if you use the 16-voice button, 2 separate 8-voice instruments. So it's a bit of a powerhouse. And of course you can upload your own samples in there as well. Yeah, so that's my little kind of gushing response to the Prophet X. I think it's a stroke of genius. It's not like, we're in a room of sequential analog polysynths here. This isn't one of those kind of vintage analog polysynths. This is just doing something completely different, but just doing it in such a nice way. So yeah, so that's my little my sleeper product, I think.